The twin suns of Aurelia shone over a city made of crystal towers and floating sky bridges. The capital of the Sci-Fi Empire sparkled like a dream, but deep inside its golden walls, Princess Alanaya Virel carried a secret that haunted her every night 12 years ago. She was nearly killed. It had happened during the winter. Pilgrimage's sacred journey every royal child must complete at the age of 9. The memory was broken and unclear. All she remembered was fire, snow, and blood. Her guards had been ambushed. She had been thrown off a ledge, and then someone had caught her. Stranger. A warrior who burned like fire and moved like lightning. He saved her. No one ever found him. When she asked her father, the emperor, he told her it was a guardian spirit, a creature of light sent by the gods to protect you. But Alanaya had never believed that. The memory of that man haunted her dreams. He was no spirit. He bled when he fought, burned like a real person. He had whispered only one word to her before disappearing into the flames. Run. Out. 21 Alanaya was strong, beautiful, and second in command of the Sci-Fi throne. But that day remained her shadow. A mystery never solved until today. The palace buzzed with noise. Delegates from a dozen alien species had arrived for the annual Unity Summit. It was a massive event, meant to show peace across the galaxy. And as usual, there were threats, pirates, assassins, rebels, to ensure her safety. A new elite security commander was assigned to her. His name was Rian Voss. He came from the outer colonies and had served in shadow campaigns against rogue AI fleets. Highly skilled, emotionless, always in black, when he entered the hall, Alania felt the air change. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved like a ghost. Not elegant like a Sci-Fi, but precise like a blade. His face was scarred. His eyes were sharp gray, filled with weight, as if he had seen too much war. He saluted with a nod. Oh, strange. Rude, perhaps, but something in her chest skipped. Later that day, the alarm rang. Sirens howled through the crystal towers. A group of mercenaries had breached the lower levels. They were well-armed, cybernetic, and fast. Alania's guards fell one by one. She was pulled into a secured chamber by 2 soldiers, but the doors were melting under enemy fire. The guards panicked. Then suddenly, the wall behind them exploded. Smoke, fire, sparks, and through the smoke walked Rian Voss, calm, deadly. Efficient, he moved with inhuman speed. In one smooth motion, he dropped to one knee, fired 3 shots, and killed the first attackers. He spun, kicked a grenade back at a second squad. The floor shook. He moved, like she froze. That move, that spin, that look in his eyes. It was the same Dot from Flamefall Ridge. She knew it like she knew her own heartbeat. He turned to her. "Princess, with me," he said, pulling her behind cover. He led her through tight corridors, never panicking. He seemed to know every turn, every blind spot. She didn't even have time to think. When they reached the control room and locked it down, he finally turned toward her. "You're safe now," he said. But his voice, it was the same too, slightly hoarse, sharp. "Run." That was the voice. She stared at him. "It was you," she whispered. He blinked. "What?" "You saved me. 12 years ago. At Flamefall Ridge." He didn't answer. "I remember how you moved, how you fought." His expression hardened. "You must be mistaken." No, she stepped closer. "You told me to run." Silence. He looked away. She saw something shift in him. Not fear. Something deeper. Pain. Then he said quietly, "Forget it. That man died a long time ago." That night, Alanaya couldn't sleep. She sat in her private chambers, staring at the old data crystal she had kept since childhood. It contained old palace files from the Flamefall Ridge incident. Most were corrupted, but one was still a blurry video file. She loaded it again. The image shook and flickered. It showed her falling through the snow. the guards screaming. And then a man in black armor jumped from a ridge above. He wasn't a Sayari. His movements were rough, not graceful, but powerful. He fought with weapons the Sayari had outlawed, ballistic ones, explosives. And his face. She paused the video. Zoomed in. Gray eyes, guard face. Burn marks on his jaw. It was him. It was Rian. Voss, she ran a scan through the palace AI. It couldn't match his face with any Sayari database. But when she forced a cross-reference with ancient Terran archives files hidden in Black Zone systems, match appeared. Species, Homo sapiens origin, Terra Class 7, bioweapon planet. Status, extinct after Orion Purge. Human, he was human. Alanaya felt the room spin. Her heart pounded. Humans were gone. They were called destroyers of balance, wild and dangerous. Her teacher said they had been wiped out for the good of the galaxy, but one had survived. He had saved her life. Twice. Why? The next morning, she requested a private meeting with him. He stood in silence as she locked the chamber. I know what you are, she said quietly. He didn't reply. You're human, still nothing. I saw the video. I compared your face. It's you. You were there. After a long pause, he finally answered yes. One word. Simple. Heavy. She stepped back. But how? Humans were destroyed, he interrupted. Erased. Yes, that's what they wanted you to believe. And why are you here? I made a promise. To your mother. Alanaya froze. A mother. She saved my life once. When I was a boy, during the purge. In return, I swore to protect you. Hey. Looked at her now not as a soldier, but as someone tired. Haunted. I've kept that promise. That's all. But why hide it? She asked, voice low. Why lie? Because if the council finds out what I am, they'll kill me. And maybe you too, why me? Said nothing. But something flickered in his eyes again, a hesitation, truth half held. And just like that, she realized there was more than him saving her, more than his identity. This was just the beginning. The throne chamber felt colder than usual. Princess Alanea Varel walked slowly along the glowing floor, her long silver dress trailing behind her like a shadow. The words from last night echoed in her head. Yes. ... I'm human. I made. A promise to your mother? She couldn't stop thinking about it. Her mother had died in a shuttle explosion 10 years ago. The Empire said it was an accident. But what if it wasn't? What if everything she knew was a lie? Lanaya stood before the massive crystal window that looked over the capital. She could see airships flying, people walking, lights blinking in every direction. The world looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. She remembered all the lessons. Taught by the elders, humans were dangerous. Humans were chaotic. Humans were extinct. But Rian Voss was none of those things. He was quiet, calm, and deadly but not cruel. He had saved her life twice. First as a child, then again just days ago, and he had done it in secret. Why would a human do that? She needed answers, and only one person could give them. That night she wore a simple cloak and slipped past her guards. She knew where Rian stayed Sector 9, in the outer defense barracks, a place no royal ever visited. She used her rank to bypass security inside. It was dark and cold. Metal walls, basic furniture, no luxury. Rian sat alone, cleaning a strange weapon not Sayari tech. He didn't look surprised when she entered. You shouldn't be here, said I had to come. He sighed and said, the weapon down. I told you what I am. What else do you want? The truth. Silence. Finally, he nodded. I'll show you. He pressed a button on his wristband. A small hologram opened old files, images, maps. Some had human faces. Others showed planets on fire. This is what they don't want you to know, Rian. Said he told her everything. 100 years ago, humans had built powerful cities, fast ships, Machines that could think and feel, but the Sci-Fi Council feared them. They said humans were growing too fast, too wild, so the Council launched the Orion-Purga secret war. They destroyed Earth with plasma bombs, hunted human colonies across the stars, used psionic weapons to break minds. Billions died, but some survived, hidden in dark space, forgotten systems. Deep underground, Rion had been just a boy when his home was burned. His mother died in front of him. His people fled to the shadows. But then, Sci-Fi woman appeared. A young queen on a peace mission. Queen Illyrialania's mother. She found us, Rion said softly. We thought she'd kill us, but she didn't. She told the council our colony was already empty. She gave us food, medical aid. She saved me. Alanaea's chest tightened. My mother never told anyone. She couldn't, Rion said. If the council found out, they'd kill her. And now, I think, maybe they did. Alenia sat down, her head spinning. So you saved me, because you owed her. Yes. Oh, and that's it. He paused. At first, yes. She looked into his eyes. But now, Rion didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, now, I protect you because you deserve to know the truth and because you're not like them. She didn't know what he meant by that. Not yet, back in the palace. Lania began her own search. Using her private access code, she entered the royal data vault. It was illegal to open classified war records, but she had no choice. Her mother's death, the purge, the council's secret orders. She needed to know. It took hours, but she found a hidden folder marked Project Silence. Inside were files about secret operations, medical tests, genetic experiments, and one name caught her. Breath. Subject Alanaia Virel. Blood report. Category HYB. Stared at the screen, her hands shaking. She wasn't fully Sci-Fi. She was part human. Her mother had hidden it, changed the birth records, lied to the Empire, to everyone. Suddenly everything made sense. Her strange dreams, her unstable powers, the way some nobles looked at her with fear. She wasn't pure. And the council would never allow a hybrid to take the throne. Later, Rion found her on the rooftop garden. She looked up with tears in her eyes. You knew, didn't deny it. I knew you were different, he said, but I didn't know for sure until now. Alanaia stood in silence. They'll kill me. Yes, he said, if they find out why. She asked, why do they hate humans so much? He looked out at the city. Because humans remind them of what they fear most. Freedom, choice, chaos. The council controls everything. Order, bloodlines, thought. Humans break that. That's why they erased us. She turned to him. But you're not broken. I was, he said quietly. But your mother healed something in me, and maybe you will too. Suddenly, the sky flashed. An explosion rocked the lower city. They looked up and saw black smoke rising from a government building. Alarms screamed. Holograms blinked red. The council symbol lit the sky. Emergency code black. A terrorist. Attack. No. Rion's face went hard. This isn't pirates. He pressed his comms device. This is them, he said. The council is starting the purge again. Alanaia gasped. Against who? Hybrids, he said. Smoke filled the air. From the palace rooftop, Princess Alanaia Virel watched the flames rise over the lower city. The council tower had been attacked bombs, fire, and screaming civilians. Emergency sirens echoed across the crystal buildings. Flying drones spun in circles. Guards ran everywhere. But this wasn't a random terror strike. This was something darker. Who did this? She asked quietly. Beside her, Rian Voice, the human soldier who had once saved her life, watched the flames with cold eyes. Not pirates, he said. Not rebels. This was a cover-up. For what? To hide what they're about to do next. Down below, the royal command chamber was chaos. The elders were shouting. Screens blinked with alerts. Defense generals barked orders. But the Emperor, Varel, stood still, staring at one glowing file. A hidden document had just leaked to the public, a file from deep within the palace servers. Project Silence. Hybrid bloodlines. Alania Varel classified. Part human. He knew what this meant. Everything was about to collapse. Hours later, Alania stood in her father's throne room. The golden hall was empty, silent, filled with shadows. Her father sat on the throne, face pale, hands tight on the armrests. Behind him stood the High Elder, Lord Tyrexa, cruel man with cold eyes and a voice like metal. "I know what's in the files," Alania said. Her father didn't answer. "Why didn't you tell me?" Still silence. "I'm not fully Siari," she said. "I have human blood. My mother, she loved a human, or helped them, maybe both. She protected them," her father finally said. His voice was low, tired, and she died for it. Alania stepped forward. "So what now? Are you going to kill me?" The High Elder spoke instead. "You are a threat to the purity of the Empire," he said calmly. "The people will not accept a hybrid queen. The throne must remain unbroken." Alania stared at him. "And if I don't step down?" Tyrek smiled thinly. "Then you'll be removed, quietly, for the good of the people." Her father said nothing. Not a word. Later, Rianne found her outside, standing in the rain. Her silver dress was soaked. Her hands shook. But her eyes were full of fire now. "They're going to erase me," she said. "I know. They said I'm a threat, a danger." "You are," he replied. She looked at him in shock. "Because you're the one thing they can't control," he explained. "You're Siari enough to rule, human enough to think for yourself. You don't fit their system. That's why they fear you." Alania took a deep breath. Then maybe it's time they do fear me. That night, she sent a secret message to all outer territories. A coded signal, one that hadn't been used since the Orion Purge. The symbol, the flame bird, mark used by old human resistance cells. "I'm calling for allies," she told Rian. "If I go down, I won't go down alone." He stared at her. "You're changing. I have to." But the council moved first. The next morning, Alania was arrested in front of the High Temple. The guards didn't even explain. They forced her to her knees as the public watched. The elders declared her a traitor. They called her blood unclean. They called her mother a criminal. They said the human virus had returned. But before they could finish the execution order, Rian came. He dropped from a skyship in full combat armor. Smoke bombs exploded across the square. Guards fell left and right. People screamed and scattered in the chaos. He cut the princess's bindings and pulled her into the shadows. "You came for me," she whispered. "I always will." They ran together through secret tunnels under the city. It felt like a dream, flashing lights, distant gunfire, alarms ringing. But Alania never slowed. She wasn't just running, she was preparing. They reached a hidden chamber, an old vault from before the Siari Empire. Inside, Alania found something unbelievable. Old weapons, forbidden technology, human-made devices, all sealed away by her mother. Rianne activated a large holotable. A map appeared, planetary routes, secret bases, rebel hideouts, the last known locations of surviving humans and hybrid colonies. Alania stared. All this time, there were more of us. "Not many," Rianne said, "but enough." "Enough for what?" He looked at her. "Enough to fight." In the following weeks, the skies changed. A shadow fleet appeared at the edges of Siari space. Strange ships. Not fully human. It's not fully Sior. Something new. Elinea's signal had been heard. Thousands had answered. Humans, hybrids, exiled nobles, freedom fighters. They came from asteroid fields, abandoned moons, shattered cities. They came not to destroy the empire, but to rebuild it, to burn down the lies. To tell the truth, inside the palace, fear spread like poison. The council demanded war. The emperor ordered silence. But the people began to ask questions. Why was the princess gone? Why were hybrid children disappearing? Were guards rounding up scholars and old healers? The story was breaking. and Alania was becoming a symbol. Then came the final message. A direct broadcast to every screen in the Empire. Alania stood tall in her battle uniform, part Ciari armor, part human leather. Her hair was braided, her eyes sharp. "I was born into royalty," she said. "But I was raised on lies. My blood is not a curse. It is a bridge. I am not afraid." The signal cut just as council ships tried to jam it, but it was too late. The people had seen, and now they had a choice. Back on the battlefield, Rian stood beside her. "You're doing something impossible," he said. She looked up at him. "No," she replied. "I'm doing something human." The stars above Ciari Prime glowed red. Thousands of ships floated in orbit, silent and powerful. They didn't carry the flag of any nation, no royal symbol, no council crest. They carried only one mark, the flame bird, the symbol of a forgotten people, the symbol of a rising truth. Inside the command deck of the old rebel cruiser Halion, Princess Alania Varel stood in front of a wide tactical screen. She wore a dark cloak over reinforced armor. Her silver crest shimmered, but she longer looked like a royal. She looked like a leader. Around her stood warriors from many systems, humans, hybrids, exiles. A few were former Ciari officers who had left the Empire when the truth leaked, and at her right side, as always, stood Rian Voss, her protector and the human who changed everything. He nodded to her. "They're ready." She turned to the others. "So, are we?" The plan was dangerous. Ciari Prime was still too strong to attack head-on. The Council controlled the main defenses, the planetary shields, the orbital cannons. But deep under the palace was something far more important, the core archive, a living system of memories. Laws and recorded truths kept for centuries by the Ciari high priests. If they could reach it, if they could broadcast the truth from the core itself, every Ciari citizen would hear the real history. The truth about the Orion Purge, the hybrid children, Queen Ilaria's death, everything the Council had buried. And once that truth reached, the people of the throne would never be the same. "3 entry teams," Alania said, pointing at the map. "Rian and I will go underground through the old storm tunnels. Team Beta will distract the palace guards. Team Gamma holds the air. They had one chance. If they failed, they would be branded as traitors forever. If they won, they would break the chains of 1,000 years. That night, the sky above the capital turned black. The rebel fleet did not attack the city. They simply appeared and held position. No message, no movement. It was enough. Panic swept through the palace. People whispered of the flame bird, of the princess who had returned, of the humans that were supposed to be dead, and beneath the palace, in the shadows of the ancient tunnels, Alania moved like a ghost. Rian led the way, his weapon ready. The air was wet and dark. Old roots cracked through the walls. Lights flickered above them. "Do you remember this place?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "This is where I ran when I was a boy. When they burned the outer districts, do you still hate them?" He looked back at her. "I hate what they became." At the same time, above ground, Team Beta launched their attack. Explosions lit up the front gates of the palace. Rebel fighters in old Ciari armor crashed through the outer wall, drawing soldiers away from the real entry point. Team Gamma released drone flares that jammed the city's defense grid. The distraction worked. No one noticed the 2 figures slipping into the Heart Hall, the final room before the core archive. But the council wasn't blind. High Elder Tyrix had guessed their plan, and he was already waiting inside the archive hall with 6 elite guards, fully armored and armed with psionic lances. "You should have stayed in the shadows, Alania," he said coldly. "Now you'll die in them." Alania stepped forward. "I don't want to fight you, Elder. You don't have a choice," he sneered. "You're not one of us, both of you," she said firmly. "And that's what scares you." He lifted his hand and the guards attacked. The fight was fast and brutal. Rian moved like a shadow, disarming one guard with a twist, firing a pulse round through another's armor. Alania used her dual blades, blocking, spinning, defending. herself as she'd been trained. But the guards were strong and Tyrix even stronger. With a wave of his hand, he sent Rion crashing into a pillar. "Human filth," he growled. He turned to Alanaya and struck her with a blast of energy. She fell to her knees. "You think your blood gives you power?" Tyrix said. "It makes you weak." "No," she whispered. "Makes me new." And then something changed. For the first time, Alanaya didn't fight like a Sayari or a human. She fought like something else. She let her human instincts guide her, unpredictable, wild. She let her Sayari training balance her disciplined, sharp. And when she stood again, her hands glowed with a power even Tyrix didn't understand. She wasn't just royal. She wasn't just a rebel. She was the first of her kind, and she was not afraid. With a final strike, she disabled Tyrix's blade and pressed a glowing dagger to his chest. "This ends now," she said. "You can't stop the Empire." "No," she said, stepping past him toward the archive core. "I'm going to change it." She placed her hand on the glowing console. It scanned her blood. It recognized her lineage match. Ilaria Varel confirmed. Genetic status: hybrid. Acknowledged. Access granted. She looked at the screen. Play Truth Archive. And the galaxy changed across Sayari space. Every holoscreen flickered. The lies ended. People saw the true history. The burning of Earth. The lies of the Council. Queen Ilaria's secret mission to save the humans. Her murder by her own court, and the birth of a child with both human and Sayari blood. Princess Elena in the cities. People stopped walking. Stopped speaking. In farms, factories, ships, everywhere there. People watched in silence. And when the message ended, they looked at one another not with fear, but with hope. The council collapsed within hours. The emperor, shocked by the truth, stepped down quietly. The elders were arrested, or fled to the stars. The throne was left empty, but the people already knew who they wanted. They didn't want another pure ruler. They wanted someone who had been lied to, hunted, and still chose to fight. They wanted Elen. She stood once more on the palace balcony, not in robes of gold, but in the armor of the Flameborn. People below cheered, not because of her bloodline, but because she had given them truth. "Today we begin again," she said, "not as separate people, but as one." Rian stood behind her, quiet as always. "You've changed the world," said. She looked at him and smiled. "No," she said, "we did." Two suns rose over the planet Sayari Prime. The light was warm and bright, stronger than ever before. Touched the silver towers, the green sky bridges, and the wide crystal lakes. It touched the wounds of a broken empire and helped them begin to heal. In the center of the city, where once only nobles had walked, people of all kinds now gathered: Sayari, humans, hybrids, and others. They had come to see history. They had come to see their new queen inside the palace. Alanaya Varel stood before the high mirror in the royal chamber. She wore no crown. Her new robe was simple: silver, black, and deep crimson, the colors of truth, unity, and sacrifice. Her eyes held power now. But it was not the kind that came from bloodlines or weapons. It came from choice, from pain, from truth. From the fire she had walked through, Rian Voss stood beside her, quiet as ever, dressed in formal guard armor. His scarred hands rested on his belt. His face was calm, but his eyes watched her closely. "You don't need to do this alone," he said. "I know," she said, and smiled softly. "But I had to walk alone to get here." In the grand assembly hall, the crowds gathered. There were no golden trumpets, no ancient rituals. This was not a coronation of the past. This was something new. The old throne was going to melt down by her command. In its place stood a platform of light stone, surrounded by vines and living roots, symbolizing growth. Elenaya walked slowly up the steps, her heart calm. When she turned to face the people, no one clapped. No one cheered. They waited. They listened, and she spoke. "I was born in a palace and raised in a lie," she began. "I was told I was pure Sayari, that humans were enemies, that hybrids were a disease. But then I learned the truth." Her voice was strong and steady. "I am not pure. I am not broken. I am not less. I am both. A ripple went through the crowd. The hybrids standing in the back, once afraid to show their face, stood taller now. Some cried. Some simply nodded. I carry the blood of both peoples. I carry the fire of two suns, and I will not hide any more. That day Alania was not crowned by the council or the church. She was chosen by the people. The first, Queen of Flameborn, the Queen of Two Suns. But peace did not come easily. Even as the cities celebrated and the old regime collapsed, danger still lurked beyond the stars. The surviving members of the council had escaped to the outer systems. They called themselves the Pureborn Shield, fanatical group sworn to destroy all hybrids and rebuild the empire as it once was. They were building weapons, training new soldiers, spreading lies in the colonies. The war wasn't over. It was only beginning. Alania knew what she had to do. She could not simply rule from a throne. She had to lead from the front. Within weeks, the Flameborn Alliance was formed, a coalition of rebel systems, free human colonies, and former Ciari sectors that supported Elena's vision. Rian Voss was named commander of Flameborn Defense. Under his leadership, the Alliance built a new fleet, not for conquest, but for protection. Ships with both human and Ciari technology. Crews trained together. No one was judged by blood, only by choice. In her first official act as queen, Alania passed the Unity Decree. Hybrids were citizens. Humans had full protection. No child would be tested, tracked, or taken from their family again. Some nobles resisted, some generals resigned. Many accepted the truth. The world had changed, and change could not be stopped. One night, months later, Alania stood again on the old palace balcony. The stars above were quiet. The war front was distant for now. She held a warm drink in her hands and looked out across the city. Rian stepped up beside her. "Still awake?" he asked. "Still thinking," he smiled, "about the past?" "No," she said, "about the future." She turned to face him. "I want to build something that lasts, not just buildings or fleets. I want people to believe they belong." He studied her. "You've done that already?" She shook her head. "Not enough. Not yet." She hesitated, then said quietly, "I want to find others like me, hybrids who are still hiding. Kids who think they're mistakes. I want them to see someone like them." Brienne's voice softened. "They will." The next day, Lanaya announced a new mission. The Flameborn Outreach. Ships would travel across known space, looking for lost hybrid children, survivors of the Orion Purge, and forgotten human colonies. No one would be left behind. The past would not be erased. It would be remembered and healed. The years passed. The Pureborn Shield attacked many times, but never broke the alliance. In time, their numbers faded. Their leaders were hunted down or captured. Their lies lost power. Alania never ruled with fear. She ruled with truth. Her people loved her not because of what she was, but because of what she stood for. Children grew up hearing her story. A princess who had been lied to. A girl who found her strength in her difference. A queen who united two enemies into one people. One evening, long after the last war ended, Alania walked alone through the royal gardens. Flowers glowed in the moonlight. Two moons, one Ciari, one human colonized, hung side by side above her. She heard soft footsteps behind her. "Still walking alone?" Rian asked. "Older now, but still strong." "Just thinking," she replied. He walked beside her for a while in silence. Then he asked, "Do you ever wonder? What would have happened if you had never learned the truth?" She looked at him, thoughtful. "I would still be in the palace," she said, "still believing I was someone I wasn't. And me." She smiled. "You'd still be a ghost in the shadows." They both laughed softly. Then she looked up at the stars. "I'm glad we met," she said. "So am I." Years later, in the great halls of history, scholars would tell her story. Not as a fairy tale, not as a tragedy, but as a turning point in the stars. The day the princess froze is also the day she began to rise.